Walters is the place to be before and after games at Nationals Park. Be sure to check out their self-poured beer wall that includes options such as the Vienna Lager.
You just realized that you needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job posts seen on other job sites. Indeed sponsored jobs help you stand out and hire fast. With sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates so you can reach the people that you want faster. And it makes a huge difference. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Plus, with Indeed sponsored jobs, there's no monthly subscriptions, no long-term contracts, and you only pay for results. How fast is Indeed? Well, in the minute I've been talking to you, 23 hires were made on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. There's no need to wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/BWN. Just go to Indeed.com/BWN right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/BWN. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
Set the 1-0 pitch. Roden hits a ground ball past the mound. Abrams, a diving stop, shovels to Garcia, but it's behind him, and it'll just trickle toward the pitcher's mound where it's picked up by Williams. Springer scores. The Nationals don't get an out. That'll be an infield hit, and they lead it 3-0. Ferrer ready for the 0-2. Runners lead second and third. Here it is. Swinging a chopper first base side. It's fair. Past the diving low. Down the line. 2 runs will score. As Bichette has a 2-run single, he's going crazy over there at first base. A little chopper right down the line eluded the diving low, and the Jays cash in and take a 5-3 lead here in the bottom of the 8th inning.
And welcome to Nats Chat along with MASNsports.com Nationals insider Mark Zuckerman, who is at Rogers Center in Toronto. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. Good luck was not on the side of Nats pitching on Tuesday night. A 5-3 loss at the Blue Jays on Tuesday night in Game 2 of a 3-game series. The Nats lost this game despite overcoming a 3-0 6-inning deficit. But we had bad luck for Nats starting pitcher Trevor Williams. We had bad luck for Nats reliever Jose A. Ferrer. And the Nats in this MLB 2025 regular season now are 1-4. This installment of Nats Chat brought to us by Table to Mat, which you can count on for all of your nutrition and personal training needs. Table to Mat offers virtual and in-person nutrition services and personal training to the DMV area. You can email Table to Mat directly through the website table2mat.com. That's the word table, the number 2, MAT.com. You can call Table to Mat 240-388-2206. You can find us on X at Nats_chat. You can find us on Blue Sky at Nats Chat Podcast. You can email the show, natschatpodcast@gmail.com. We are accepting submissions for shout-outs on the Nats Chat Podcast. You want to send a hello, a congratulations, a happy birthday, whatever to someone who listens to the pod. Email Tim Shovers, natschatpodcast@gmail.com. We have a very nice shout-out coming up later in the program. We also want to let you know that a certain ad featuring Cam Newton, an ad that I know some of you had found uncomfortable. That ad has been removed from the rotation of ads in this podcast, has been removed in exchange for cash considerations and an ad to be named later. We are working out the specifics of the trade, but the Cam ad is no more on this podcast. Although I tell you, the Nats offense could have used the product that Cam has been promoting. More on that Nats offense in a bit. And the Nats on Tuesday night got a great game from shortstop C.J. Abrams. But Mark, some unfortunate results from Trevor Williams and Jose A. Ferrer. They were not perfect, I'll grant you that. But the variance of the batted ball, not on the side of Williams and Ferrer. And the result was another Nats loss.
This was a weird game, Al. You had the Blue Jays with 10 hits off of Trevor Williams in 5 innings, all singles. 3 of them never left the infield, and a couple others were on the ground the entire time. And, you know, as much as we've been talking here about the increase in power and home runs from the Nationals lineup, the Blue Jays did it the old-fashioned way in this one. And while that may not always work because you are relying on the variance of the batted ball, it worked in this case. And there were how many, 50-50 plays that either the Nats could have made, didn't make, just came short on or made a great diving play but couldn't get the throw there in time. It really, as C.J. Abrams said, it was a game of inches. And then Trevor Williams took it a step further and said, since we're in Toronto, a game of centimeters. And it really did feel like that. This was a game that could have gone either way. But it's another one of those. We've already seen a couple of them now in the first week of the season that I know you could say the Nats didn't really do a lot to deserve to lose it, but they also didn't do a whole lot of things to deserve to win it. And if you want to take that next step as a team, you've got to find a way to win these kind of games, whatever that takes, whether it's one more pitch, one more hit, one more play made in the field. I think it's going to be something to watch over the course of this season. Can they start to take that next step where they take control of the game in, say, the 8th or 9th inning instead of being in it, but ultimately the other team takes it from them?
Yeah, the Nats seem to have a penchant so far for doing just enough to lose. The games are, for the most part, competitive and close, but the Nats do just enough to find a way to lose in these games. I was fascinated by the outing for Jose A. Ferrer because he was throwing fire. But things just ended up not working out for him. And it now does remain the case that Nats relievers have allowed at least one run in each of the Nats 5 games. 3 Nats relievers on Tuesday night combined to allow 2 runs, both of which were unearned in 3 innings. We had Jorge Lopez tossing a scoreless and hitless bottom of the 6th. He did issue a leadoff walk, did issue a 2-out hit by pitch, but he generated 2 swinging strikeouts. And then we had Ferrer's appearance. He ultimately allowed 2 runs, both of which were unearned in 1 2/3 innings. He tossed a scoreless and hitless bottom of the 7th, despite issuing a leadoff walk. But he, in the bottom of the 8th, allowed 2 runs, both of which were unearned. He gave up a leadoff opposite field single by George Springer down the right field line. Ferrer then committed a fielding error on a sacrifice bunt by Will Wagner. And this was a really bad play by Ferrer. He, while turning to throw the ball to first base, simply dropped the ball. Inexcusable. Obviously, you cannot have that. But Ferrer gave up a 2-out, 2-run single by Bo Bichette on a bouncer down the right field line on an 0-2 pitch for a 5-3 Blue Jays lead. And if you watch the game or if you listen to the game, Ferrer in this plate appearance was basically owning Bichette. Bichette was way behind what Ferrer was throwing. Like I said, Ferrer had Bichette down 0-2, and then Bichette did just enough to get the bat on the ball on the 0-2 pitch, and the ball found its way down that right field line, and the result was a killer 2-run single. Davey Martinez, during his post-game session with you guys, said it. Ferrer threw the ball really well. He did. You can't entirely absolve him because that fielding error was not good. But man, it felt like Ferrer deserved better with how well he was throwing. Just to round out the bullpen, Lucas Sims in that bottom of the 8th faced one batter and got one out. But a shame that things went the way that they did for Jose A. Ferrer.
Well, and especially because he's 1 pitch away from putting up 2 scoreless innings. Remember, he pitched the 7th, 16 pitches, and then comes back for the 8th. And you kind of saw how this was going to play out. Once Davey decides to pull Trevor Williams after 5, and he goes to Lopez in the 6th, which felt a little early, maybe for what we think his role is going to be. And you're saying to yourself, okay, this is a close game. They've got 3 relievers they really trust right now. It's Ferrer, Finnegan, and Lopez, and they've got 4 innings to cover. How's he going to get it from them? And it felt like, okay, if Ferrer has a good 7th, he's probably going to come back for the 8th. And I was even expecting maybe Finnegan would come in to finish the 8th. He wasn't warming up, so it didn't come to that point. But it was a lot to ask of Ferrer, and he almost had it. It's the air. That changes the whole inning. And as he said, he's looking up to first base before he actually had the ball. It's the cardinal sin for a pitcher to make in that kind of spot. You got to settle down in the moment, make sure you got the ball secured. You got plenty of time, make the throw, get the out, and that could change the complexion of the entire inning. And then actually a batter later, it's another bunt. This time it's fielded by Paul DeYoung. The Nats had the wheel play on, which means C.J. Abrams was coming behind him to cover third. I don't know if C.J. was calling for it or if DeYoung didn't hear it or didn't realize it. I think he had a play at third, actually. If he spun around, I think he had the out at third base. Instead, he takes the out at first, and now it's second and third with 1 out, ultimately 2 outs when the big hit came. So a couple of just little moments there that if you execute a little differently, a little better, it could have changed the whole outcome of the game. This is what I'm talking about. These little things that we hear so much about. This is how you win close ball games, and they're going to have to start to figure out how to do those kinds of things.
I tell you, though, bigger picture, you look at Ferrer, he has got the stuff and he has got the look. And if he can just sort of put everything together, and that's an if, I understand that. But like every time you see him pitch, you do see the signs of a guy who could be a really good reliever for the Nationals. And hopefully that does come together. So the bullpen again has its struggles. And Trevor Williams as an starting pitcher on Tuesday night, 3 runs in 5 innings. But man, you talk about being victimized by what we like to call the variance of the batted ball. This final line was something. 3 runs in 5 innings on 10 hits, all of which were singles, including 3 infield singles. Now, he did give up some hard contact. That is true. But he also gave up plenty of weak contact, and he did not deserve to give up 10 hits in 5 innings. I mean, you just see that, you think he got shellacked. That's not what happened. He issued no walks. He recorded just 3 strikeouts, but we know that Trevor Williams isn't much of a strikeout pitcher. 84 pitches, 53 strikes, 31 balls. All of the runs came in a bottom of the second, 3 runs on 5 singles. And again, not all of them were what you would call well-hit singles by the Blue Jays. So, that's not going to happen every outing. You give up 10 singles over 5 innings. But again, luck not on the side of Nats pitching in this game.
No, and this is a danger of Trevor Williams in that he is a pitch to contact guy. Now, he found a formula last year that really worked. Keep the ball down in the zone, induce weak contact, usually on the ground, and more times than not, that's going to be successful. And he did that for the most part in this game. But the variance of the batted ball, you never know for sure. And there were just enough that got through. But I'm looking at that second inning rally there, and I see a bunt single, I see a run-scoring fielder's choice, and then I see a run-scoring infield single. Now, C.J. Abrams was all over the place behind him, making some tremendous plays. In some cases, he got to the ball, but didn't get the throw. In some cases, he got to the ball and made the throw. In some cases, didn't quite get to the ball, he and Luis Garcia. But there was a lot of good stuff going on behind him, just not quite enough. The best thing that Trevor Williams did, I think, you mentioned only had 3 strikeouts. 2 of them came back-to-back to stop the bleeding in that second inning. There's already 3 runs across. There's still 2 runners on base, and he's got to face the top of the order. And for a guy who's not known for his swings and misses, he gets Bo Bichette and Vladimir Guerrero Jr., a couple of big boys there, to strike them out, stop the bleeding, kept it as a 3-0 game instead of something worse. There are members of this pitching staff who can learn a thing or two about that. I can think of a few who had trouble last year taking a 3-run inning and making it worse than that. Good on Trevor for keeping it there. And in the process, extended a streak that I don't think anybody could have foreseen. This is now 16 consecutive starts by Trevor Williams, in which he's given up 3 runs or fewer. He's 1 shy of the club record by a guy named Max Scherzer, who did it in 2019. Now, big difference in innings pitched between those two and in quality of those innings pitched. So it's a little bit misleading, but the fact remains when Trevor Williams takes the mound, he has done a good job over the last year plus of minimizing how much damage he gives up.
It's funny. I saw the Nats put that out on X, and I was like, I don't know if I want to use that because, like you said, that is a little misleading. And, for the sake of history truly mirroring reality, I kind of hope Max Scherzer keeps that record because I feel like that truly belongs to Max. I don't know that Trevor Williams necessarily is worthy of that record, but the numbers are what the numbers are. That is true. And look, Trevor Williams, since the start of last season, when healthy, has been a very good pitcher for this team. There's no disputing that. But, with this whole variance of the batted ball thing, it does bring to mind, and it's funny, this guy keeps coming up even though he's injured. With DJ Herz hurt, the only true strikeout pitcher in the Nats rotation right now is MacKenzie Gore, right? Everyone else is what you would call someone who's not that much of a strikeout guy. And that could be a problem because that does put a lot of onus on the defense to come through. That also puts a lot of onus on, just balls finding ways to fielders as opposed to balls, finding ways to where fielders are not. And that is a bit of a danger here. If you're going to say that the starting pitching can be a strength of this team, to only have one guy who truly is a strikeout pitcher, that's kind of a dangerous tightrope to be walking.
It's a fair point. Yeah, I would say of the others, Michael Soroka has a chance if he's really on the way that they think he could be on, be a strikeout guy. We've seen Jake Irvin at times be that guy, but I think Mitchell Parker and Trevor Williams, we know, are not. Maybe as the season plays out, we see Cade Cavalli, and hopefully he's a strikeout guy. That would be nice at some point to see. But Yeah, you're right that this is not necessarily an overpowering rotation in terms of getting swings and misses aside from MacKenzie Gore. And they need Gore on Wednesday to have one of those big starts like he did on opening day. He's going to ask to be the stopper here, try to avoid the series sweep. And given what they've had to do bullpen-wise, probably give him some length as well, because I'm guessing Ferrer will not be available on Wednesday.
Although, thankfully, for the first time in this regular season, Davey Martinez on Tuesday night only used 3 relievers as opposed to using 4 or more. He had used 4 or more relievers in each of the Nats' first 4 games here.
Swing for the fences this summer and hire Table to Mat for all your nutrition and personal training needs. Being healthy and having fun do not have to be mutually exclusive. Table to Mat specializes in making healthy lifestyles enjoyable and sustainable. Are you experiencing headaches, stomach discomfort, or want to lose weight? Find out how your food choices and exercise impact how you feel physically and mentally. We offer virtual and in-person nutrition services and personal training to the DMV area. With over a decade working in our fields, we bring experience and passion to help you be the best version of yourself. Check us out at tabletomat.com, calling us at 240-388-2206, or emailing us at laura@tabletomat.com for more info. That's the word table, the number 2, MAT.com.
Hey, it's Al Galdi for Window Nation, which is offering another tremendous deal to listeners of the Nats Chat podcast. 4 free windows for every 4 windows that you buy, and you pay nothing until 2027. This offer is good through April 30th, so hurry. Schedule your free estimate at 866-90Nation or windownation.com and tell Window Nation that you want the deal that you heard about from Al Galdi on the Nats Chat podcast. There's no limit to how much you can save, and if you buy a house full of windows, Window Nation will include a free entry door. Window Nation partners with the top window manufacturers in the nation to build windows to their high-quality specs. Then Window Nation passes the savings on to you. You'll protect your home with some of the best windows that you can buy at a fraction of the price of other brands, and you'll increase the value of your home. 4 free windows for every 4 windows that you buy, and you pay nothing until 2027. The offer is good through April 30th. Call 866-90Nation or visit windownation.com and tell Window Nation that you want the deal that you heard about from Al Galdi on the Nats Chat podcast.
Hey Nats Chat, Tim Shover's here to tell you about the latest offer that Peak Tea has for our listeners. They sent me a few boxes, and the first one that I've been trying is the fermented Pu'er black tea. It helps with digestion and metabolism, but most importantly for me, it has a lot of caffeine. If you're someone like me who's very opinionated with their caffeine, I recommend checking this out. As you can imagine, editing this podcast, a lot of late nights, a lot of early mornings when they're on the West Coast. So if I'm drinking some caffeine, you know it matters to me. I want to tell you now about the offer for our listeners. Go to peaklife.com/nats. That's PIQUE life.com/nats for 20% off. Again, peaklife.com/nats. That's PIQUE life.com/nats.
You just realized that you needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job posts seen on other job sites. Indeed sponsored jobs help you stand out and hire fast. With sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates so you can reach the people that you want faster. And it makes a huge difference. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Plus, with Indeed sponsored jobs, there's no monthly subscriptions, no long-term contracts, and you only pay for results. How fast is Indeed? Well, in the minute I've been talking to you, 23 hires were made on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. There's no need to wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/BWN. Just go to Indeed.com/BWN right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/BWN. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
The kick, and here it comes. Swing and a fly ball, shallow right. Coming hard as the right fielder. Roden won't get to it. A base hit. Young has scored. Abrams around third coming home. He scores on a looping single to right for Keibert Ruiz. He scores. Young and Abrams drives in his fourth and fifth runs of the year. And it's now a one-run game. The Blue Jays 3 and the Nationals 2. Ruiz comes through with a clutch 2-out, 2-run single.
So we can talk about bad luck for the pitching, but the truth is the Nats offense in this game just was not that good. 3 runs, just 6 hits, which were 3 doubles and 3 singles. And the Nats did work 4 walks. That was good to see. 2 for 8 with runners in scoring position. But a lot of guys just had subpar nights. James Wood, he is the Nats starting left fielder and number 2 batter, 0 for 4, 3 strikeouts. Luis Garcia Jr., we have not talked much about him. He has not done much so far here. He is the Nats starting second baseman and number 6 batter, went 0 for 4. Outfielder Dylan Cruz did not play. He did get the day off, mental break or otherwise. Really struggling has been Cruz, as we have discussed. His replacement, Alex Call, did well. And if you have been following the Nats, you were not surprised by this at all. This is what Call does. The last few years, he has begun his seasons in a really good way, and he has proven to be actually a pretty valuable guy when used in short spurts. Call, in this game on Tuesday night as the Nats starting right fielder and number 8 batter, went 2 for 3 with a double, a single, and a walk. He in the top of the third drew a 1-out walk. He in the Nats 2-run 6 had a leadoff single through the left side of the infield. He in the Nats 1-run 7 had a 1-out first pitch opposite field double to the right field corner. So good stuff from Call. But, you keep going up and down the lineup here. Paul DeJong as the Nats starting third baseman and number 7 batter, 0 for 4, 3 strikeouts. Josh Bell as the Nats starting DH and number 5 batter, 0 for 3 with a walk and 3 strikeouts. Nathaniel Lowe as the Nats starting first baseman, number 4 batter, 0 for 3 with a walk and 2 strikeouts. We shall sing the praises of C.J. Abrams momentarily, but beyond him and Call, and I guess you could also say Keibert Ruiz, this was not a particularly good game for this offense.
No, and so we've talked about how they've been hitting the home run, and 13 of their 16 runs coming into this game had been on the home run. Well, they didn't do that in this game. They finally got a couple of clutch hits with runners in scoring position, although, as you said, it was still only 2 for 8. And so for the season, they are now 6 for 41 with runners in scoring position. And while, yes, the home runs can make up for some other flaws, you still do have to be able to deliver on occasion, at least in some big spots. Abrams had a really good night in that regard. Keibert Ruiz had the big clutch 2-out, 2-run single in the 6th, but that's all they had. And there were opportunities to do more. They had nothing going in the first, 5 innings against Jose Barrios and finally got it going in the 6th. So it's still a work in progress, this lineup. I feel like on any given night, they've had 2, maybe 3 guys look good. They really haven't had that game where it all kind of comes together and you're stringing together hits in a big inning that combines the clutch hits with the power. You hope that comes up. I will say they have faced some pretty good starting pitching here through the first 5 games. They haven't really faced one guy that you say, okay, that's a good matchup. They've all been tough in one way or another. So, chalk up a little bit to that. And just the early season, it's always a little slower to get the lineup going than the pitching. But again, they're 1-4 through 5 games. They could very easily be, if not 2-3, even 3-2 with just another clutch hit or 2 in the right moments. And they just have not been able to produce that so far.
Well, the Nats did get a really good game from C.J. Abrams. He was by far the biggest bright spot for the Nats in this game. He is the Nats starting shortstop and number 1 batter, went 3 for 4 with an RBI double, another double, and a single. And he had a stolen base, and he had an impressive defensive play.
And now the pitch. Swinging a ground ball up the middle. Can Abrams get there? Diving stop up to his feet. He whirls, he fires to first. It's dug out by Lowe for the out at first.
This was the kind of game that reminded you why C.J. Abrams is viewed the way that he is viewed in terms of the upside, and reminded you of what this guy can be and maybe is in the process of becoming. You talk about like a franchise shortstop. This was a franchise shortstop kind of performance. The fact that the Nats lost the game is not of consequence when you're evaluating what Abrams did in this game. He was magnificent. Top of the 4th, a leadoff double to right field. Abrams in the Nats 2-run 6 had a 1-out first pitch single into center field, and he had a stolen base. Maybe the moment of the game for Abrams was that defensive play. Bottom of the sixth, a tremendous defensive play. Runner on first, no outs. Nats down 3-2. Abrams made a diving catch of a well-hit grounder off the bat of Will Wagner. Abrams, in diving, landed on his stomach in center field with his back to the infield. He then got up, spun toward first base, and fired a one-hop throw to first baseman Nathaniel Lowe for the putout. And the initial call of out was upheld via replay review. And Abrams wasn't done. He and the Nats, one-run seventh, had a two-out RBI double to right field to tie the game at 3. What a performance by C.J. Abrams.
Yeah, I want to talk about the defense first. That play on the Will Wagner grounder in the sixth might be his best defensive play in the big leagues, given where he had to go, what it required to complete the play. He had a couple others. He had the one where he got to a ball that was hit well to the other side of second base, but it kind of got twisted around as he tried to make the throw to first and couldn't do it. This time he got it there. And having Nathaniel Lowe over there at first base is a huge comfort for all these infielders. As CJ said, as long as you just don't throw it too high, Lowe is going to catch it, whether it's on the fly or on a scoop. And I think that helps all these guys feel like just get to it, get the ball to them, and you've got a chance at it. That was a tremendous play by him. And remember, we've talked about how the analytics suggested that he was pretty bad at shortstop last season. Plays like this do show you that he has the natural ability and he has worked at it. And that would be a huge development if he can turn into a really above average defensive shortstop. And then at the plate, good at bats all the way through. That double was really important for them. He's facing a rookie left-hander making his major league debut. You know, you get a scouting report, but until you've seen a guy in person, you don't really know what you're dealing with. And as he said, everything was breaking away from him. He got one he could handle, was able to pull it down the line for the game-tying double. It's early, it's 5 games, but if you think back to the start of spring training, one of the biggest question marks coming into all this was, who are we going to see from C.J. Abrams? Both as a player, given his struggles in the second half, but also, mentally and emotionally after the demotion at the end of the season. Well, so far, he's answered all the questions. He's done exactly what they've wanted him to do, and he is, stepped up in a way that a lot of people in the organization believed that he would, but are really gratified to see that he has.
Well, and when you think about who can be the Nats' best all-around player, I would say James Wood has the highest upside in terms of batting. But in terms of all-around play, I think you could make a very compelling argument for C.J. Abrams. Obviously, Dylan Cruz is part of the conversation, but, we haven't seen it yet from him offensively. We are seeing it from Abrams. We saw it for a good chunk of last season from Abrams, although, like we discussed, very up and down campaign. But, a night like this, a game like this, where, again, he in a lot of ways takes over the game. It's hard for a player in baseball to take over a game, a position player. And he kind of did that with the offense and with the defense. He can do that. When you're a guy who can excel both offensively and defensively, to say nothing of the base running, that's a pretty special thing that you can do, and he can do that. And so he can take over a game in that way. And to see him do that on Tuesday night was awesome. It's a shame the Nats lost this game, but again, that does not take away from the performance of C.J. Abrams. And I mentioned Keibert Ruiz. I think this is important. Like with Ruiz, it can't just be like, okay, he does really well for 1 or 2 games and then he disappears. I like that kind of every game he's given you something. And Ruiz on Tuesday night as the Nats starting catcher and number 3 batter, 1 for 3, 2-run single and a walk. Top of the 4th, drew a 1-out walk, and Ruiz in that Nats 2-run 6 had a 2-out 2-run single to right field to cut the Nats deficit to 3-2. Nobody's asking him to homer every game, but consistency matters. And I feel like at least so far, and it's only 5 games, understand that, but we are seeing consistency as much as you can see over 5 games. We're getting that from Keibert Ruiz.
Well, it's a 5-game hitting streak to start the season. So there you go. He's delivered in every single game. He also drew a walk, something we don't often see from him. So that was great. And I think behind the plate, there haven't been a lot of attempts against him, but I think he is looking better as a thrower from behind the plate. And he's, I think, called some pretty good games as well, because we've seen the job, especially that the rotation has done so far. So there's a lot to like there. And sort of like Abrams, where you said, okay, coming into the season, there's a little pressure on him to get off to a good start and put everything behind him from the end of last season. The same applied to Keibert Ruiz. What he's doing here early on is kind of reminding everyone who he was supposed to be all along and just putting a more positive outlook on his play and getting the season started in a way that it won't feel like an uphill climb for him the way that last year did, and really the year before that as well. So you couldn't ask for much more from him in terms of a first week of the season. And you just hope, as you said, that it continues and that he does something every day, whatever that might be, offensively, defensively, to help this team.
Tim Shover's here to tell you about a special offer that Babbel has for Nats Chat podcast listeners.
Están mejorando. Chaparro está, ellos están en Florida todavía, pero están mejorando. O sea, va a tener un poquito tiempo, pero yo creo que nos va a ayudar como en un mes.
If you're like me and you want to know what is Davey saying when answering these questions in Spanish, because after all, he is talking about the Washington Nationals, then one option is turning to Babbel, where language no longer has to be the barrier. With over 16 million subscriptions sold, Babbel's 14 award-winning language courses are backed by a 20-day money-back guarantee. Let's get more of you talking in a new language. Babbel is gifting our listeners 60% off subscriptions at babbel.com/natschat. Get up to 60% off at babbel.com/natschat. That's spelled BABBEL.com/natschat. Babbel.com/natschat. Rules and restrictions may apply.
You just realized that you needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job posts seen on other job sites. Indeed sponsored jobs help you stand out and hire fast. With sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates so you can reach the people that you want faster. And it makes a huge difference. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Plus, with Indeed sponsored jobs, there's no monthly subscriptions, no long-term contracts, and you only pay for results. How fast is Indeed? Well, in the minute I've been talking to you, 23 hires were made on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. There's no need to wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/BWN. Just go to Indeed.com/BWN right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/BWN. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
Hoffman deals. Swinging a pop-up on the right side. This should do it. Guerrero waits near the bag. He will make the catch, and the ball game is over. Toronto scores 2 at the bottom of the 8th. They win at 5-3, and they clinch a series win with the finale coming up tomorrow afternoon.
So we mentioned MacKenzie Gore is starting Game 3 of this series, and the timing is quite good in terms of the Nats needing a Gore outing, a good Gore outing. Game 3 for the Nats at the Blue Jays Wednesday afternoon at 3:07. How much does 1-4 matter at this point, do you think? We've talked about the need for the Nats to get off to a good start. 1-4 is not a good start, but it is only 5 games. Do you think 1-4 is significant, or is it still too early to be caught up in the record?
Well, how about I put it this way? I don't think 1-4 is a big deal, but I think 1-5 would be. So I think 2-4 is a lot better. At least you've won 1 out of the 3. Look, they have a tough early schedule, as you pointed out. Phillies, Blue Jays, Diamondbacks, Dodgers. And my sense coming into this was, hey, they got to find a way to hold their own. You can't expect them to win all these series, but if you could, at least win 1 of 3 and maybe take 2 of 3 and from one of these opponents and get to that next stretch where it eases up a little bit, at least at 5-7, I think you could feel good about yourself. You do that. You go 1-5, you get swept. I think it's a different kind of feeling in the clubhouse. So it is a big game, I think, on Wednesday for MacKenzie Gore to establish that he is the stopper, the ace of this team. And really, for this lineup, let's see some stuff early on. Let's see them take an early lead and not feel like they have to claw their way back into it. It would be nice to see that kind of development from them and not just say, okay, MacKenzie, it's all on you. You got to be near perfect again. He had basically a perfect start on opening day and didn't have anything to show for it because of a lack of support from his teammates and from his bullpen. So let's see both ends of this equation. I think escaping here with 1 win is important. I think getting swept, going home at 1-5 to face Arizona and LA. Again, you don't want to put yourself too far behind the 8 ball, especially, and I know we shouldn't care about this at this point, but the NL East has not necessarily played out how we thought it would the early going. The Braves are a mess right now on the field and off the field. The Mets lost another game. The Phillies, as we've seen, have some flaws. You would love to at least hang around with these guys in the early going. Don't dig yourself into such a hole that you feel like you're out of it right away, especially when the other teams in the division are not necessarily getting off to a good start.
Just tread water. Just doing that can be enough. There's a saying in baseball, you can't win a pennant in April. You could lose a pennant in April, and you just don't want to get buried early in the season, right? If you can just tread water, sometimes it's good enough, and then, you can take off and fly later on in the season.
And pretty much every year since 2019. I think last year they had about a 500 April, but every other season they've been buried in April, and you knew they were already out of it. So that's an important step for this team to take. You don't got to come out of April with a winning record, but you can't get buried. Keep yourself in it, especially during this early stretch against tougher opponents.
All right, we have a shout out to deliver. This is a birthday shout out. It goes to Tom Kearns. It is from his cousin Jack. Writes Jack about his cousin Tom, a Nats and baseball superfan who knows more about the game than anyone who I know, although he's incredibly sad to see the exit of the likes of Nick Senzel and Joey Gallo. He looks forward to watching the young guns and new signings play ball this season as a first-time season plan holder. Growing up in D.C., Tom has been following the Nats 365 days a year for just about all 20 years. This is your much-deserved participation award, my friend, on air on the Nats Chat podcast. I appreciate your friendship throughout my life and baseball companionship these past couple of years. However long it may take, I'm enjoying this journey with you to World Series Championship number 2. Go Nats, your cousin Jack. P.S. Thanks, Alan Mark. We are big fans of the show and everyday listeners. Well, thank you, Jack, for the shout out. A happy birthday to you, Tom. And I sure hope it is true that he is a fan of Nick Senzel and Joey Gallo. And there hopefully is particular excitement with this transition that we have yet to discuss. Joey Gallo transitioning to a pitcher. So there's that working for Tom as he celebrates his birthday.
Well, all I know is based on the little that we saw of Joey Gallo last season, there didn't appear to be a whole lot of future as a hitter in his game anymore, even though the guy's hit a lot of home runs in his career. I am fascinated to see how this works out for him. Out of the blue, announcing to the world that he's converting to a pitcher at this stage in his 30s. Good luck to Joey and happy birthday to Tom. Hopefully a year from now, you're talking about some bigger names doing some better things for the Nats than Nick Senzel and Joey Gallo.
Well, if the Nats bullpen continues to struggle, would they be open to signing Joey Gallo? That's a question for a future installment of the Nats Chat podcast. This installment of the podcast brought to us by Table to Mat, which you can count on for all of your nutrition and personal training needs. Table to Mat offers virtual and in-person nutrition services and personal training to the DMV area. You can email Table to Mat directly through the website, table2mat.com. That's the word table, the number 2, MAT.com. You can call Table to Mat 240-388-2206. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat are courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. For Mark Zuckerman, I'm Al Galdi. We thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat podcast.
The 0-1 to Gallo. Swinging a high drive, deep right field. Back it goes. It's way back there, and it's gone. And the Nationals lead 4-3. 2-run homer for Joey Gallo, number 5 on the season.